The engine is off, the silence hits you first, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. The kind that presses against your ears after 10 hours of wind and vibration. Your hands are still shaking slightly from the throttle. Your jacket smells like exhaust and cold sweat. And somewhere behind that ridge, the sun is dropping fast and you are completely, utterly alone. For most people, this moment would feel like abandonment. For a solo moto camper, this is just Tuesday. But here's what nobody posts about it online. Nobody talks about the part that comes right after the sunset photo, the fear, the doubt. The strange ache of talking to no one for 3 days straight. Solo moto camping is sold to you as freedom, and it is. But freedom has a shadow, and today you're going to see it clearly. Let's start with the one nobody admits. Loneliness doesn't arrive as sadness, it arrives as noise. Your own thoughts get louder when there's no one to interrupt them. Psychologists call this monkey mind, the tendency for an idle brain to spiral into rumination when external stimulation drops away. On the road, with no conversation, no notifications, no distraction, your mind starts talking to itself. And it doesn't always say kind things. Ted Simon, the British journalist who circled the globe alone on a motorcycle in the 1970s and later wrote about it in Jupiter's Travels, described this exact phenomenon. He said solitude forces you to meet yourself without an audience, no performance, no witnesses. Just you, your bike, and whatever thoughts show up uninvited. He didn't romanticize it. He said some nights it felt like therapy. Other nights it felt like being trapped in a small room with someone he didn't like very much. That someone was himself. Here's the plain truth. If you've never sat with your own mind for 6 hours with nothing but engine noise, you don't actually know what you sound like inside your own head. Solo moto camping puts you face to face with that voice. Fast. Second thing nobody tells you, fear at night is not rational, and it doesn't care that you know that. You can tell yourself logically that the noise outside your tent is probably wind, or a raccoon, or your own bike settling in the cold. Your brain doesn't fully believe you. This is called hypervigilance. A heightened state of sensory alertness that kicks in when your environment is unfamiliar and your usual safety signals, walls, locks, neighbors, are gone. Every twig snap sounds like a threat. Every gust sounds like footsteps. You lie there, wide awake, running through worst-case scenarios you'd never think about in your own bedroom. Veteran riders don't pretend this feeling disappears, they say it fades. Repetition rewires the response. The 10th night alone in the woods feels nothing like the first, but the first night. The first night, almost everyone lies awake with their multi-tool gripped in one hand, listening to a forest that has never once actually hurt them. Now let's talk about the part that's almost too unglamorous to mention. Hygiene, bathroom situations. The stuff Instagram crops out. When you're carrying everything on 2 wheels, there is no bathroom, there is no shower. There is a shovel, a patch of dirt away from any water source, and your own discipline. This isn't a minor detail, it's an entire ethic. It's called Leave No Trace, a set of outdoor principles developed by wilderness agencies and adopted widely across the camping and touring community. One of its core rules is simple. Bury human waste at least 200 feet from any trail, campsite, or water source, and pack out everything that isn't natural. No wet wipes left behind. No trash, just this once. Moto campers who ignore this aren't just being messy. They're the reason stealth camping spots get shut down for everyone else, and washing, most nights you don't. You wipe down with a small microfiber towel and biodegradable soap, and you make peace with feeling a little grimy. Comfort, real comfort, becomes optional. That's not a flaw in the lifestyle, that's the whole point of it. So let's reconstruct a specific night, because this is where it all comes together. You roll into a clearing off a Forest Service road, engine ticking as it cools. Light is fading fast, so you move quickly. Tent up in under 10 minutes, because you've learned the hard way that fumbling with poles in the dark invites mistakes. You strip off your riding jacket and pull on your base layer, then insulation, then a light shell. Following what riders call the 3-layer system. A clothing philosophy borrowed from mountaineering. Layer 1 manages moisture against your skin. Layer 2 traps warmth. Layer 3 blocks wind and rain. 3 thin layers beat 1 thick jacket every single time, because you can adjust them individually as conditions shift. You eat something simple off a tiny stove, maybe instant noodles, maybe rehydrated rice. Not because it's delicious, but because you're panniers. The metal or soft-sided storage boxes mounted on either side of your bike only have room for the essentials. Every gram matters when it's strapped to a machine. You also need to line, balance, and control at speed. Then the sun disappears completely, and now it's just you, a small flashlight, and a forest that suddenly feels twice as large as it did an hour ago. This is the part nobody shows in the highlight reel. The quiet minutes between finishing dinner and finally falling asleep, where your brain runs through every what if it can generate. What if the bike doesn't start tomorrow? What if someone finds this spot? What if the weather turns? And here's the counterintuitive twist. The fear doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. The fear means you're doing it exactly right. Comfort and growth rarely occupy the same moment. If a solo trip feels completely safe and familiar the entire time, you've probably stayed too close to what you already know. The riders who keep coming back, the ones who do this for years, aren't the ones who eliminated the fear. They are the ones who stopped needing it to go away before they'd act. At GAT, a rule that originally meant all the gear, all the time referring to safety equipment, has quietly become a mindset too. Suit up for the discomfort, then go anyway. And loneliness, the thing that felt so heavy at the start of the night. By morning, it often flips into something closer to clarity. Without a phone buzzing, without anyone else's opinions filling the space, you actually hear your own preferences again, what you want. What you're avoiding, what you've been too busy to notice back home. Now here's the mirror, because this isn't really about motorcycles at all. Most people will never ride into a forest alone. But most people know exactly what it feels like to sit in a quiet room and suddenly hear their own thoughts too loudly. To feel a flicker of irrational fear about something that logically can't hurt them. To avoid being alone with themselves because they're not sure what they'll find there. The solo moto camper just does it on purpose, deliberately, repeatedly. Until the version of themselves that shows up at 2 a.m. in a dark tent stops feeling like a stranger. The engine is off, the silence hits you first. Except now you know what that silence actually is. It's not abandonment. It's an invitation to sit with the parts of yourself you usually drown out and finally listen.